I didn't think the bonus email was about me. It hit the whole company at once. One of those polished, cheerful messages that tries to sound responsible while it quietly takes something from you. Incentive compensation will be deferred. No date, no timeline, no acknowledgement that people had already built their lives around that money. In the break room, people shrugged like they'd been trained to. Whatever, someone said. At least we still have jobs. A few laughed. A few swore. Then everyone went back to work, because that's what you do when you're tired and rent is due. But I wasn't tired. I was alert, because my job wasn't sales. It wasn't marketing. It wasn't something you can do without saying the guts of the company. I was in finance, one of those people who lives in spreadsheets and reconciliations and ugly system exports that never match on the first try. I didn't approve anyone's bonus, but I helped track the liability for it, meaning I didn't just hear promises, I saw numbers, and numbers don't do deferred the way people do. That morning, I sat down at my desk like it was any other day. Coffee, headphones, calendar already full. Then I opened the ledger, not the HR portal, not the internal announcement page, the ledger detail report, where we planned to becomes we did. I filtered the incentive liability account by my cost center and ran the detail. At first, everything looked normal. Accruals through the year, a standard true-up pending, the usual. Then my eyes landed on a line that didn't belong there. My employee identifier, my name, and a number that was too specific to be a placeholder, $18,700. I stared at it for a few seconds, waiting for my brain to correct me. It didn't. The status wasn't pending. It wasn't forecast. It was booked, clean, posted, sitting in the liability the way it always sat right before payroll pushed the payout, which meant the company had already acknowledged that amount as owed. So when they said deferred, what they really meant was, we're deciding who gets paid and who has to shut up and accept it. I didn't react, not outwardly. I didn't stand up. I didn't storm anyone's office. I didn't fire off an angry email. I did what finance people do when something smells wrong. I checked the audit trail, and that's when the story stopped being about disappointment and started being about intent. Because right under my line, there was a clearing entry, a reduction, a movement out of the incentive liability. And it wasn't coded the way a deferral is coded. It wasn't a simple hold. It was a shift into a suspense account, one of those temporary buckets you use when you need the books to balance while someone quietly figures out where the money is going. I leaned back in my chair and felt my stomach go cold. You don't move incentive liability into suspense unless you're doing one of two things. You're hiding a mistake, or you're hiding a choice. I took screenshots immediately. Slow, careful, making sure the timestamps were visible. The journal source was visible. The memo field was visible. Then I did something I almost never do at work. I closed my door. I sat there in the quiet and asked myself one question. If my bonus was deferred, why did the ledger look like it had already been handled? I didn't know it yet, but that decision, opening the audit trail instead of believing the email, would cost them everything. Because the moment I saw that clearing entry, I realized something worse than no bonus. I realized my money didn't vanish. It moved. And if it moved, someone moved it on purpose. Then my chat notification popped up, a message from my director. 2 words that made my pulse spike. Stop digging. And that's where part 1 really begins. By lunch, the whole floor had accepted the deferral like it was inevitable. People complained in safe ways, sarcastic jokes, eye rolls, a few bitter comments in group chat that disappeared the second a manager walked by. Then they went back to work, because complaining doesn't pay the mortgage. I didn't complain. I built a timeline. Because once my director wrote, "Stop digging," it stopped being about a bonus and became about control. I went back into the ledger and pulled the exact journal ID tied to my clearing entry. I traced it the way you trace any suspicious movement. Source, approver, timestamp, and account mapping. The source wasn't payroll. It wasn't the normal bonus interface file. It was a manual adjustment posted through our finance systems journal workflow. The memo field said bonus true up per leadership, and the approver name sitting on it was my director's. I stared at the screen long enough that the numbers started to blur. Not because I was confused, because I wasn't. It was simple. He had authorized a movement of my incentive liability out of the place it's supposed to sit, into a holding bucket, where it becomes untraceable to anyone who isn't specifically looking for it. A suspense account is the corporate equivalent of a dark alley. Things go in, and unless someone follows, they don't come back out. I opened the audit log next. Who touched the journal? Who edited it? Who routed it? Everything was neat. Too neat. No messy notes. No back and forth comments. No, please confirm. Just a clean approval path like it had been rehearsed. I took more screenshots. Then I did the most dangerous thing you can do in a corporate environment. I asked the question in writing, I sent a short message to payroll, kept it polite, and copied my director. Hi, quick confirmation request. Are incentive accruals remaining booked during the deferral period, or are they being reclassified? I hit send and watched the little spinning icon like it was a bomb timer. Payroll didn't answer for almost 2 hours. Then my director replied instead, not with information, with tone. Do not email payroll about this again. The deferral is company-wide. You're creating noise. That phrase is a warning disguised as advice. It means, I see you. Stop. I didn't respond. I opened the payroll portal and pulled my compensation history. There was no bonus line yet. Of course there wasn't, if the bonus was deferred. But then I remembered something most people don't think about. Even if you don't see the money, the system still has to prepare the tax and wage calculations when it believes something has been issued. So I went into the year-end earnings preview, the section that shows projected taxable wages and withholdings based on year-to-date entries. And there it was. A one-time incentive amount listed under earnings, $18,700. My heart didn't race, it sank, because that single line meant something far worse than they delayed it. It meant the payroll system believed the payment had been processed. Processed means it created a transaction record. Processed means it generated tax treatment. Processed means it would show up on my wage statement as income, even if I never saw a dime. Which means, in the cleanest possible definition, they were about to make me pay taxes on money I didn't receive. I refreshed my bank app anyway. Nothing. No pending deposit, no reversal, no memo, nothing. I checked again an hour later. Still nothing. That's when I felt the irritation turn into something sharper, because mistakes don't usually line up perfectly across systems. But this did? The ledger said my liability was cleared. The payroll preview said I was paid. My bank said I wasn't. 3 points don't make confusion. They make a shape. I walked down to payroll's side of the building, open floor, lower lighting, people who avoid eye contact because their whole job is telling employees, we can't. I asked to speak to the payroll analyst I'd worked with before. A woman named Denise who'd saved my team once when a file corrupted before close. She looked tired when she saw me, like she already knew why I was there. I kept my voice low and calm. My record shows a one-time incentive issued. I haven't received anything. Can you confirm if a disbursement was actually released? Her fingers froze over the keyboard for half a second. That half second was my answer. Then she said carefully, we can't discuss individual disbursement routing without HR authorization. I didn't argue. I didn't push. I just asked the next question. Can you confirm whether it shows as issued in the system? She exhaled through her nose like she was choosing her words around landmines. Yes, she said. It shows as issued. And the bank account destination? I asked. She looked at me, then down at the screen, then back up. I can't. That's when I felt the first real snap inside me. Not panic, not fear. The moment when you realize the rules only exist to protect the people who are breaking them. I thanked her, walked back to my desk, and didn't sit down. I stood behind my chair, staring at the screenshots on my phone. The entries lined up like fingerprints. Then my inbox pinged again. A meeting invite. No subject beyond. Quick sync. Attendees, me and my director. Time, in 15 minutes. And the location wasn't a room. It was a call. Camera optional. That's the kind of invite you get when someone wants to intimidate you without witnesses. I didn't know it yet, but what he was about to say on that call would confirm the worst part. Because if this was a mistake, he would have brought HR. If it was a delay, he would have brought payroll. But it was just him. Which meant the conversation wasn't about fixing my bonus. It was about fixing me. And then, silence. The kind that means something's gone wrong. The call connected exactly on time. My director's camera was off at first. Just his initials in a gray circle, like he wanted the power of being present without the risk of being seen. "Why are you emailing payroll?" he asked. No greeting, no small talk. Straight to control. "I'm trying to understand the accounting treatment," I said, keeping my voice flat. "The deferral message doesn't match what I'm seeing." A pause. Then his camera clicked on. He was smiling, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You need to stop," he said. "You're not helping yourself." That line landed heavier than he intended. Because he didn't say, "Let me fix it." He didn't say, "It's a mistake." He said, "You're not helping yourself." Like the issue wasn't the money. Like the issue was my curiosity. "I'm asking about my own compensation record," I replied. "It shows an incentive issued." His smile thinned. "You're reading things you don't understand." "I understand the ledger," I said. "I understand payroll flags. And I understand taxable wages." He leaned closer to the camera, voice softer. That's how he did intimidation. Quiet, personal, almost friendly. "Listen," he said. "These are leadership decisions. There are exceptions. There are sensitivities. You do not want to be the person making this a problem." There it was, exceptions. So it wasn't a glitch. It was a choice. I watched him talk for another minute, mostly vague warnings wrapped in corporate language. He kept saying timing and complexity and integration, but he never once said the simplest sentence in the world, "You will be paid." Instead, he said, "If you stay calm, we can take care of you." Take care of you. Not correct the record. Not fix the error. Take care of you. I felt something inside me shift, like the last little piece of loyalty finally stopped fighting for oxygen. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse him. I didn't give him emotion to weaponize. I just asked one question. "Can you put that in writing?" His eyes flicked, just for a beat. "What?" "The explanation," I said, "that my record shows an incentive issued, but the company is deferring it, and that taxable wages reflect it. Put that in writing so I can file it with my year-end documents." He blinked slowly, like he was choosing between anger and strategy. "You're being difficult," he said. I let the silence hang long enough to make the point. Then he tried to pivot. "Drop it," he said. "I'm telling you as a friend. Stop digging into systems you don't need." And that was the moment I realized the real danger wasn't losing a bonus. It was what happens when someone with authority decides your access, your reputation, and your payroll record are all tools they can adjust. The call ended with one final line from him, calm as a threat. "Do not contact payroll again. Route everything through me." When the screen went dark, I sat there for a full minute without moving. Then I did what I should have done the moment I saw the clearing entry. I stopped treating this like a conversation and started treating it like evidence. I opened the payroll self-service portal and tried to pull my payment election history, the log that shows when direct deposit information changes. The page loaded, then it froze, then it threw an error I had never seen before. Access restricted, not for everything, just for that specific section. A surgical lock. I checked the ledger report again. Access denied. I checked the incentive register. Access denied. It wasn't subtle anymore. They weren't discouraging me. They were sealing doors. My throat tightened, not with fear, but with the cold understanding of what that meant. If you are innocent, you correct. If you are scared, you block. I opened my screenshots and created a folder on my personal phone labeled with the date and the words incentive audit. Then I wrote a timeline in plain language, the deferral email, the ledger liability, the clearing entry into suspense, the payroll preview showing the incentive as issued, no deposit received, my director's warning, access revoked immediately after inquiry. I kept it dry, factual, no drama. Then I called Denise again, not to pressure her, but to ask something she could answer without risking her job. If a direct deposit destination is different than the employee's primary account, I said, does payroll have a record of who changed it? She paused. Everything is logged, she said carefully, but I can't access those logs without a request. A request from whom? I asked. She hesitated. HR leadership or internal audit? Internal audit. That word hit like a door opening in a hallway I didn't know existed. I didn't know it yet, but that decision would cost them everything. Because HR protects the company by minimizing problems. Audit protects the company by documenting them. That afternoon, I went to our ethics and compliance portal. The one everyone pretends is there for values, but is really there for liability. I didn't use loaded words. I didn't write theft. I didn't write fraud. I wrote verifiable facts and attached the screenshots. I included dates, journal IDs, memo fields, and the sequence of access revocations. I also included one line that I knew would force the right people to look. My taxable wages reflect an incentive disbursement that I did not receive. That triggers more than a policy concern. That triggers reporting risk. When I hit submit, the system gave me a case number and an automated message that my report had been routed for review. For a moment, just a moment, I felt a small, clean burst of relief, not victory. Relief, like I had finally stepped out of the fog and into something solid. Then my email pinged, a new notification. Not from HR, not from my director, from the payroll system itself. Your direct deposit information has been updated. I stared at the subject line until my vision narrowed, because I hadn't changed anything. And if someone changed it now, right after I filed a report, it meant they weren't just covering the past. They were actively moving in the present. But that was just the beginning. The direct deposit alert came through like it was routine. Your direct deposit information has been updated. No explanation, no warning, no, if this wasn't you, click here. Just a clean notification like the system expected me to nod and move on. I logged into the payroll portal from my phone because I didn't trust my laptop anymore. The screen took longer to load than usual, then finally opened to my payment elections. The primary account was different. Not the last 4 digits I knew by heart. Not my bank. Not my routing. A new account, partially masked, just enough to confirm it wasn't mine. For a second, I didn't feel anger. I felt something colder, clarity turning into gravity. Because now it wasn't a confusing mismatch between systems. Now it was active movement. Someone had touched the one place that should be untouchable without the employee. And they did it right after I filed a compliance report. I took screenshots again, slower this time, making sure the timestamp and the last updated field were visible. Then I did 2 things back to back, fast, no hesitation. First, I called payroll's main line and asked for a hold. Not a reversal, not a discussion, a hold. I have a compliance case open, I said. My direct deposit profile changed without my authorization. I need you to freeze my payment elections until internal audit reviews the access logs. The analyst on the phone didn't argue. Her tone changed the second I said compliance case. Do you have a reference? She asked. I have the submission confirmation, I said. You should also see the wage issue tied to my record. She put me on mute for a moment. When she came back, she sounded careful. I can place a temporary lock, but the request will be escalated. Escalate it, I said, and document that I reported the change the moment I saw it. Then I made the second call. The ethics hotline, because the portal doesn't feel real until you hear a human voice. I gave them an addendum. Direct deposit updated without authorization after report submission. Payroll asked to freeze. Screenshots captured. The operator didn't react emotionally, but she asked the kind of questions that told me this was now more than bonus drama. Do you believe this affects tax reporting? She asked. It already does, I said. The system shows an incentive issued. My taxable wages reflect it. I did not receive the funds. A pause, then. Your report will be routed to internal audit and legal. That's when the room felt smaller. Not because I was afraid, because I knew what it meant when legal gets involved. The company is no longer trying to soothe an employee. It's trying to control exposure. 10 minutes later, my director called. Not a Teams message, a real call, like he wanted to hear my voice and measure how shaken I was. I didn't give him that. What did you do? He asked. I reported an unauthorized change to my payroll profile, I said, and I asked payroll to freeze my elections. Silence, sharp and immediate. Then his voice dropped into that soft, almost gentle register he used when he wanted something to sound like advice. You're taking this too far. You told me to route everything through you, I said, so I'm routing it. My account was changed. I'm fixing it through the proper channel. You're making yourself a problem, he said. I already was a problem, I replied. That's why my deposit got changed. He exhaled like he was trying not to lose his temper. Listen, he said. We can still handle this quietly. I can get you paid. You withdraw the report. We reset the elections. No one else has to know. There it was, finally, clean enough to hold in your hand, not an apology, not confusion, a trade, money for silence. I didn't argue with him. I didn't moralize. I didn't threaten. I said one sentence that felt like stepping onto solid ground. I'm not negotiating for what's already owed. His tone hardened. You're not thinking about the consequences. I am, I said. That's why I documented everything. He hung up. And for the first time in weeks, I realized something that scared me more than losing a bonus. If he was willing to touch my payroll profile, he was willing to touch anything he could reach. My access, my reputation, my future in that building. So I moved like someone who understood corporate retaliation isn't dramatic. It's administrative. I forwarded my documentation to myself in a secure way through the approved compliance channel. I wrote down every date, every system name, every restriction message, every timestamp I had captured. I printed nothing at the office. I didn't leave evidence on their machines. I treated it like an investigation, because that's what it was now. The next morning, my calendar invite arrived. Internal audit intake. Attendees, an auditor, a payroll manager, HR leadership, and someone from legal I'd never met. My director was invited too. He accepted within seconds. The meeting started with the auditor doing what auditors do, stripping emotion out of the room. Walk us through the timeline, she said. I did. Clean, chronological, factual. Deferral email, ledger liability, showing my incentive accrued. Clearing entry, moving the liability into suspense. Payroll preview, showing my incentive as issued. No deposit received. Taxable wages reflecting the amount. Access revoked to key reports. Direct deposit profile changed without authorization after my compliance submission. No adjectives, no guesses, just cause and effect. The payroll manager confirmed something that made the air shift. The incentive disbursement record exists, she said. It shows as processed. Lagal asked, was the payment reversed? No, payroll said. It was not reversed. Internal audit asked the question that mattered most. Where was it sent? Payroll hesitated just a fraction too long, then answered, the deposit destination on that disbursement is not the employee's primary account on file prior to the change. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. Audit turned to HR. Who can change direct deposit without the employee? HR tried to keep it calm. Certain administrators can with documentation. Audit nodded once. Then we need the documentation, and we need the access log for the change. My director finally spoke, trying to take control with the same authority he used in staff meetings. "This is spiraling," he said. "It's a timing issue. We can correct it without all of this." The auditor looked at him with a neutrality that felt sharper than anger. "We will decide the scope," she said, "not you." That was my micro-catharsis, watching the power shift in real time, not with yelling, but with procedure. The kind of procedure he couldn't charm or intimidate. Audit asked payroll for the change log report. Payroll said it required admin extraction. HR said they would provide it. Then legal said one sentence that made it clear the company understood exactly what this was. Until this is resolved, do not modify the employee's compensation or access profile further. My director went still. Because the second legal says that, the machine stops obeying people like him. The meeting ended with audit assigning actions. Payroll lock confirmed. Disbursement tracing, bank routing verification through official channels. Admin access log pull, and a request for the approval chain behind the leadership exceptions used to clear liabilities. As we dropped off the call, I felt something close to relief again, small, contained, but real. Then an email hit my inbox before I could even stand up. Administrative notice. Please do not access company systems pending review. No explanation beyond review. No end date. No invitation to respond. Just a clean instruction like they were putting a lid on the pot. And I understood why. Because once audit pulled the access logs, someone's name was going to be attached to that direct deposit change. And whoever it was had already proven they would rather move money than admit the truth. But that was just the beginning. When the notice hit, "Do not access company systems pending review," I didn't panic. I'd seen this move before, just never aimed at me. It's the corporate version of isolating a witness. Freeze access. Control narrative. Buy time. So I treated it like what it was. I shut my laptop. I took a photo of the notice on my screen. I wrote down the exact timestamp. Then I walked to HR, physically, in person, because if they wanted everything contained inside systems I couldn't touch, I was going to make them speak where they couldn't edit the record. Afterward. The HR business partner met me in a small conference room with glass walls. The kind meant to make you feel watched without admitting you're being watched. She didn't offer me a seat. "We're just being cautious," she said. "Cautious about what?" I asked. She tried to keep her voice warm. "Your report created questions. We're letting audit run the process." "Good," I said, "because the payroll record says I was issued an incentive I never received, and my deposit profile was changed without my authorization." Her mouth tightened for half a second. Then she said something that told me the internal story was already shifting. "We're going to correct any discrepancies." Discrepancies. That's what they call it when the system shows your money leaving and you not getting it. I kept my tone even. "I want 3 things," I said, in writing. Her eyes narrowed slightly. "What 3? 1. Confirmation that my taxable wages will be corrected. 2. Confirmation that the incentive will be reissued to my verified account. 3. Confirmation that any access restrictions placed on me were not retaliatory." She didn't like that third one. I could see it. "That's not how this works," she said. "It is if it's true," I replied. "And if it's not, you should want it documented." She said she'd follow up. That was HR language for "we'll decide what you're allowed to know." I walked out and didn't wait. Because the lesson I learned in the last week was brutal and simple. If you let them control the tempo, you lose. 2 hours later, payroll called me. Actual phone call, not a ticket response. The payroll manager's voice was clipped, professional and tight in the way people sound when they realize there's an audit trail behind them. "We're issuing a correction," she said. "Your incentive disbursement will be reprocessed." "Great," I said. "And my taxable wages?" "We're preparing an amended wage statement," she replied. "Your year-end reporting will be corrected." I didn't celebrate. Not yet. Because money moving back doesn't answer the bigger question. Who changed the deposit destination? I asked. A pause. Then, internal audit is reviewing that. Which is what you say when you already know the answer and you're waiting for someone with authority to say it out loud. That night, I slept badly. Not because I was scared of losing my job, but because I kept replaying the same thing in my head. How easy it had been. How cleanly someone with the right permissions could move money, lock doors, and tell you to stop asking questions. Then call it complexity. The next morning, I got a new invite, internal audit follow-up. This time, my director wasn't on it. He was removed entirely. That alone told me the outcome before anyone spoke. The auditor joined first, camera on, face neutral. Legal joined next, same neutral. HR joined last, a different person than my usual business partner. Then the auditor opened with the sentence that finally gave me the calm I'd been trying not to reach for too early. We've confirmed an unauthorized administrative change to your direct deposit profile. Unauthorized. Not irregular. Not mistaken. Unauthorized. She continued. We've also confirmed that the incentive disbursement was processed and routed to an account that was not your verified account on file prior to the change. I kept my voice steady, but I felt my chest loosen like a knot finally gave up. Legal spoke next. The company will reissue the incentive to your verified account, correct your taxable wages, and provide written confirmation of the correction for your records. Then the auditor said the part that mattered, the part that was never about the number on the screen. The administrator credentials used to change your profile were traced through the access logs. Corrective action is being taken. They didn't say his name. They didn't have to. Because within an hour, the office rumor chain did what it always does. My director hadn't just been moved. He'd been walked out. No farewell email, no best wishes, no internal announcement beyond a quiet org update, and a reassignment of his approvals. His badge didn't work. His calendar vanished. His authority evaporated the way it does when legal decides it's a risk. And here's the part that made it feel like karma instead of bureaucracy. He wasn't taken down because I was loud. He was taken down because he was consistent. The same ledger pattern I found on my own line existed on others. Small, deliberate clears into suspense after the deferral announcement. Exceptions. The word he used like a shield. Internal audit didn't just pull my access logs. They pulled the account. They pulled the journal approvals. They pulled the entire pool of exceptions. And when they did, they found exactly what you'd expect when someone thinks control is the same thing as ownership. It wasn't only my money. It was a system. A small siphon hidden inside corporate language. By Friday, the reissued deposit hit my verified account. Not with fanfare, not with apology. Just a clean line in my banking app that finally matched the number I'd seen in the ledger, and attached to it was another entry, smaller, labeled as an adjustment tied to the correction. Companies don't add adjustments unless someone in legal tells them they have to. HR emailed me a formal letter confirming the wage correction and the incentive reissue. They wrote it like they were closing a ticket, not admitting a breach. I didn't argue with the wording. Because I didn't need a confession. I needed closure. Then the final choice came. They offered me a path forward. A retention conversation, a title review, a manager reassignment. The corporate version of saying, please don't leave and tell anyone how fragile this is. I listened, I thanked them, and I declined. Because after you watch someone try to move your money and then move your access, when you notice, you don't rebuild trust with a new org chart. You rebuild your life somewhere else. I accepted an offer with a competitor 3 weeks later, one rung higher, with a bonus policy that came with a date, a document, and a governance chain that didn't depend on one person's ego. On my last day, I didn't make a speech. I didn't tell coworkers what happened. I didn't walk out with a dramatic box and a soundtrack. I just shut down my laptop, handed in my badge, and walked past the same glass-walled rooms where people used to whisper leadership decisions like it was holy. At the elevator, my phone vibrated. A final email from payroll. Your corrected statement is available. Please confirm receipt. I confirmed. Then I deleted the message and let the doors close. Because the truth is, the most satisfying revenge I got wasn't watching him fall. It was watching the story change. Quietly, officially, permanently. From deferred to unauthorized. From timing issue to access logs. From above your level to legal has directed. They tried to make me feel small over a bonus. Instead, they reminded me what I actually do for a living. I follow numbers. I follow trails. And when someone moves money and hopes no one notices, the ledger always notices. In the end, I didn't win by begging for my bonus. I won by forcing the only thing that matters in a company like that. A record, a correction, a consequence, and then a clean exit with no questions left hanging.